This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Keeping an eye on the sky. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Webster. We begin with another round of potent storms shaping up out there right now. Already some severe thunderstorms popping in western New York and western Pennsylvania, with more to come.
You feel the air much more humid out there today than yesterday, and that humidity is the fuel being ignited by a cold front sparking thunderstorms. And that'll be our concern now right through this evening. Any thunderstorm this afternoon will have the potential of producing torrential rain and strong wind gusts. That's
our meteorologist, Kevin Williams. His forecast for your area coming up during this newscast. The sound of war. CENTCOM showing U.S. aircraft taking off for attacks on Iran as the fight continues to intensify in the Middle East. Fox's Trey Yingst from nearby Israel.
Another heavy night of U.S. strikes against Iran. This was the 10th consecutive night aimed at degrading Iran's ability to threaten vessels in the Strait of Hormuz.
Kurt Volker is the former U.S. ambassador to NATO. He tells Fox keeping that strait open by force isn't a viable long-term plan. What's really needed is regime change in Iran.
That's a very difficult military lift, and it's going to require permanent American military engagement. I don't think we want that. As long as this regime stays in place, we're going to have a problem. They're going to attack shipping. They're going to attack their neighbors. They're going to threaten Israel. They're going to support the proxies. They're going to try to get a nuclear weapon.
Early this morning, Iran attacked another tanker off the coast of Oman, forcing the crew to abandon ship. Some feel at least a limited use of U.S. ground troops will eventually enter the picture, drawing this warning from an Iranian official through a translator.
They will face the consequences. I believe there are people in those very areas, and they are not few in number, who are counting the moments until they can welcome them.
President Trump was scheduled to attend a dignified transfer ceremony in Delaware today for 2 U.S. soldiers killed in an Iranian attack in Jordan, but that ceremony has been postponed. Today, Trump is meeting with Lebanon's president at the White House. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth set to testify before the Senate today, to be joined by Joint Chiefs Chair General Dan Kane at a hearing before the Senate Appropriations Committee. An Army veteran in custody after an incident outside a Federal Plaza building in Manhattan Monday morning. Authorities say Andrew Arabaca was armed with knives, axes, an airsoft rifle, and other weapons, as well as a sign reading "Ice off our streets." The FBI says it's Arabaca in a video pouring gasoline on the ground outside an entrance, then lighting it, setting off a firework. Law enforcement analyst Richard Esposito tells CBS there's only so much that can be done to secure such a building.
It's Manhattan. That building is a large building. There is a security perimeter around it. Barricades, bollards, substantial uniform presence, patrol cars parked outside, both police, federal service. People come in and out of that building all the time. They go to see the FBI, to go to immigration, customs and border. And what's troubling is that someone thought this was a way to protest.
2 workers and someone going into immigration court were injured. One was treated at a hospital. A new trade war as President Trump announces 50% tariffs on some Canadian imports. Retaliation for what he says is discriminatory treatment of U.S. exports of cars, alcohol, and dairy.
To impose these tariffs in the wake of a Supreme Court decision against him earlier this year, President Trump is citing a never-before-used provision of a 1930 trade law, which could also face legal challenges.
ABC's Karen Wall responding. Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
I got to remind President Trump that 33% of the lumber, and we have better quality lumber here in Canada, comes from Canada to build their homes.
Canada's Prime Minister says he'll intensify trade talks. Here comes Bertha. It's a tropical storm, not a hurricane, but that doesn't mean Bertha isn't dangerous to residents along America's Gulf Coast. New Orleans official Randy Heyman concerned about potential flooding.
As part of our storm preparation, our operations teams have already begun lowering the canal and cleaning catch basins throughout the system.
Beachgoers along the coast are being warned to beware of Bertha's powerful rip currents. She's in it to win it. Late Republican Senator Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene, responding to calls for her to run to replace her brother as a full-term lawmaker after filling the seat on an interim basis. She tells Fox,
"He's worked so hard for so long. I just I can't just let that die.
Graham is likely to face a stiff challenge from some established Republicans. A federal judge signing off on what could be the largest class action settlement in the history of U.S. copyright law.
As part of the settlement, Anthropic will pay $1.5 billion to authors and book publishers who sued over copyright infringement. A group of authors accused Anthropic of misusing their books to train its AI chatbot, Claude. The payments authorized by Monday's final court approval in San Francisco will come in $3,000 installments sent to the owners of 500,000 different published works. I'm Rory O'Neill.
And that FIFA World Cup final in New Jersey didn't exactly end gracefully. Soccer drama continuing to unfold days after the World Cup final. FIFA has launched a wide-ranging disciplinary probe following Sunday's shocking post-game melee between Argentina and Spain. Ugly scenes on the pitch with throat grabs and benches clearing immediately after the final whistle. Some severe player bans and heavy federation fines are expected. Still to come here on the Family Life Noon Report. Disagreement over what to do about rising meat prices. Some competing ideas on boosting New York's energy production. And later, Sarah Harnish brings us today's Mission Pulse feature, spotlighting the Potter's Hands Foundation in the Southern Tier.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, tracking thunderstorms this afternoon, some of which will be rather potent. We'll have forecast details coming up in 10.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Already seeing some of those on the radar. Now checking stories making news where you live in New York and Pennsylvania. Many New Yorkers say rising meat prices are making it tough to put food on the table. The Urban Institute reports grocery costs in some areas have gone up more than 50% over the past decade. This shopper tells CNY Central the higher prices have changed the way she shops.
Not as many chicken breasts anymore, more whole chickens or half chickens, because they're quite a bit less per pound. Don't buy steak much anymore. Once in a while, it's a treat.
Senator Chuck Schumer's been making the rounds in upstate New York of late, pushing what he calls the Family Grocery and Farmer Relief Act, designed to increase competition among meatpacking companies, strengthen local supply chains, and support farmers in an effort to lower costs for consumers. The bill, though, has been barbecued by the industry and economists who say it will cause chaos in the meat supply chain and likely send prices higher, not lower. They blame current higher prices on shrinking cattle inventory at its lowest point right now since 1951. Well, while Schumer focuses on meat prices, New York's Governor Kathy Hochul's been all about data centers lately. The Democrat in Western New York Monday for a roundtable discussion after signing an executive order creating a moratorium on new hyperscale data centers, pausing environmental permits for up to a year. The governor says right now, New York's grid just can't handle them.
Right now, I have over 30 projects before us in the state of New York. And if I powered every one of them, you would not be able to turn on the lights tomorrow. That's how serious this is.
She says the state should dictate the terms of how data centers would be required to invest in local communities that host them.
And let them know with certainty that if you meet all this, you'll be able to come. Then we've now changed the equation.
But critics say companies that operate those facilities, which are necessary for AI development, will go to another state with better incentives or return on investment. New York's deals with massive tech operations like Micron have boosted the need for data center development, though they require massive amounts of energy and water to run and cool their servers. Discussions about the effort to provide New York State with greater energy production are leading to a debate over the options of nuclear versus renewables. More on that from Family Life's Jeremy Miller.
Yeah, Governor Hochul's calling for the development of advanced nuclear power as part of an effort to generate more affordable energy resources. Hochul's plan, called the Nuclear Reliability Backbone, has an ultimate goal of reaching 8.4 gigawatts of zero-emission nuclear power. But environmental advocates are slamming the expansion of nuclear energy, pushing instead for alternatives like solar and wind. However, Hochul says this is not about renewables versus nuclear, but rather an all-of-the-above solution. Jeremy Miller, Family Life News.
Speaking of nuclear, Niagara County residents are demanding answers over radiation contamination found near their homes. A public meeting on Monday devolved into shouting as residents press state and federal officials over relocation, testing, and cleanup. This couple tells WIVB they're concerned and they want out.
What is the long-term effects of any of this? We ate out of what we planted in here. The kids rolled around.
Me and all my cousins when we were younger, we want resolution now.
Yeah.
Now.
ASAP. There's no tomorrow. It's today.
Officials say 39 properties have been surveyed, 6 showing elevated radiation levels that require further investigation. The EPA is working to relocate 4 families, though none had secured permanent relocation as of Monday. The principal of a Pennsylvania elementary school could soon lose her job following the death of the school's therapy dog. Family Life's Brian Query explains.
The Warwick School District in Lancaster County is beginning dismissal proceedings against Bonfield Elementary principal Dr. Amy Balsbaugh after Callie, the school's therapy dog, died after being left in a hot vehicle for nearly 8 hours in June. School board members are expected to vote tonight on formal charges, with a dismissal hearing tentatively scheduled for August 5th. Lancaster County's district attorney declined to file criminal charges, ruling the dog's death was a tragic accident rather than a criminal act. The district is pursuing disciplinary action under the Pennsylvania School Code. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. Odd story out of Greene County, Pennsylvania. State police confirm they're investigating a report that a man there forced his 9-year-old son to get a tattoo. Police say the boys confirmed the story to them and that the child had not consented to getting the tattoo. No other details available on that story. And things are finally getting back to normal in Scranton, Pennsylvania, after last week's major water main break. Paving crews still patching up a major intersection yesterday following weekend repair work. The Thursday night break left a lot of nearby residents high and dry for days, telling WNEP.
Things happen, I guess it couldn't be helped, but look at it, they straighten it out now. So things should be good, but yeah, it was rough for a couple of days without water.
We just had to make a few trips to the water truck to make sure we could flush the toilet and have fresh potable water.
American Water, which brought in water tankers for residents to use, says a 6-inch main broke off of a 24-inch transmission line. Well, the Bronx Bombers almost blew it, but bounced back. Here's Randy with sports.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Mark, it was the Jazz Chisholm Jr. show in the Bronx last night as he hit 2 home runs and drove in 5 in the Yankees' 8-5 victory over the Pirates. New York had an early 4-run cushion and blew that before bouncing back for the win. Jose Caballero hit a 2-run double for the Yanks' other runs. In Philadelphia, Trey Turner belted 2 home runs and the Phillies outslugged the Dodgers 10-7. Philadelphia played long ball against L.A. with Bryce Harper, Brandon Marsh, and Derek Hill all hitting home runs themselves. Mookie Betts hit a pair for the Dodgers. With L.A.'s loss and the Brewers' win over the Mets, Milwaukee now has the best record in the Bigs. Speaking of the Brew Crew, Cooper Pratt and Joey Ortiz, along with Andrew Vaughn, all went deep in their 8-3 victory over New York. Elsewhere, the Boston Red Sox keep rolling along. They've now won 14 straight games after their thrilling 6-5 win over Baltimore. Caleb Durbin hit a tie-breaking home run with 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th inning, and that gave Boston the victory. Elsewhere around the league, the Twins got blown out by the Guardians 13-4. Petey Halpin and Reese Hopkins both went yard twice in the victory. The Rays handled Toronto 7-1. Atlanta edged San Diego 3-2. KC squeaked past San Fran 4-3. The White Sox were 10-3 winners over Texas. Detroit 8, the Cubs 6. Houston 8-5 over Miami. The Nats knocked off the Reds 7-3. The Athletics 5, the D-backs 2. Seattle shut out the Reds 8-0. And the Angels scored 2 in the 9th to edge the Cardinals 3-2. That is a look at sports.
Thank you, Randy. Still to come on the Noon Report. We'll have a recap of the day's top stories for you. Sarah Harnish brings us today's Mission Pulse feature, spotlighting the Potter's Hands Foundation of Corning, New York, and the very, very young comforted by the not-so-young.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. In many churches, Christianity is reduced, not necessarily to something false or heretical, but to something just smaller than what it really is. Often, even our understanding of the church's mission to exalt Christ, to edify believers, to evangelize the lost, are all understood in ways that confine Christianity. Worship only happens on Sunday mornings. Discipleship is the acquisition of biblical knowledge or the process of becoming more moral. Evangelism is about securing decisions for Christ. Now, of course, they're all good things, but just not the whole story. That's why Christianity is often highly visible inside the church and largely absent from where people spend most of their lives. When faith is separated from work, when worship is disconnected from vocation, when discipleship becomes unrelated to the culture and salvation irrelevant to the wider world, Christianity has been privatized. Now, this would have puzzled the earliest Christians. The New Testament authors are constantly presenting Christ, not only as the Savior of souls, but as the Lord of heaven and earth. The Apostle Paul declared that all things were created through him and for him, and in him all things hold together. In other words, Christ's reign extends over every single square inch of reality. And if that's true, then worship could never be confined to just a sanctuary. Worship would be how we conduct all of our business, raise our children, care for our neighbors, create art, pursue justice, engage politics, steward any and every part of creation. To exalt Christ is to live under his lordship wherever he has put us. To disciple believers is about more than just teaching them Bible facts. It's about transformation. Paul urged believers not to be conformed to this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of their minds. That kind of formation reshapes not only what we think about the Bible, but how we understand reality itself. It teaches us to see the world through the lens of God's kingdom and to see God's kingdom as the reality about the world we live in. That kind of formation is desperately needed, especially today. After all, we're all being discipled by something. Something's forming our loves, shaping our habits, shaping our assumptions. If these things are not being shaped by the Holy Spirit through Holy Scripture, then it's being shaped by our surrounding culture. And none of this means that the church's mission is to seize political power or to somehow impose Christianity on the rest. Far from it. As Chuck Colson often reminded us, Christians are always called to propose, not impose. The goal's never dominance, it's faithfulness. Our task is not to control, it's to witness. We do not pursue cultural power, we seek to be obedient to Christ. And yet, faithful Christians will inevitably influence culture. When believers are deeply formed by Scripture, when Christ is exalted in every sphere of life, when the gospel is proclaimed and embodied, everything, including communities, families, institutions, and cultures, change. Not because cultural transformation is the mission, but because it's often the fruit of the mission. What the church needs is not some new strategy for engagement. What it needs is a recovered vision of the kingdom of God, a big enough worldview. And that's the conviction at the heart of the Colson Fellows program. Not only do Colson Fellows intentionally learn more about the faith and the world around them, they learn to see all of life through the lens of Christ's kingdom and then to live faithfully within it. Because the church needs more than informed believers. It needs formed believers, men and women prepared to follow Christ faithfully wherever he's called and placed them. Applications are being accepted now for the Colson Fellows program. Learn more and apply at colsonfellows.org. That's colsonfellows.org. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
Thank you, sir. Let's check in now with meteorologist Kevin Williams.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. You feel the air much more humid out there today than yesterday, and that humidity is the fuel being ignited by a cold front sparking thunderstorms, and that'll be our concern now right through this evening. Any thunderstorm this afternoon will have the potential of producing torrential rain and strong wind gusts. Behind the aforementioned front, skies will clear, the air will cool, and nicer weather returns later in the week. For this afternoon, though, it will be breezy, warm, and humid. Variable cloudiness, some sunshine, some showers, and again, strong thunderstorms will rumble through the area into the evening hours. High temperatures today, low 80s. Later tonight, leftover clouds, low 60s. For tomorrow, breezy, cooler, less humid than today. Clouds break for some sun, might be a brief shower. High in the 70s. Nice day on Thursday, bright sun, a few puffy clouds in the Twin Tiers. High temperatures on Thursday in the 70s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm Mark Webster. Thanks again for joining us. A missile launch on the 10th night of U.S. strikes against Iran, and Iran is dishing it out, too. Iran's IRGC says it used cruise missiles of its own to destroy Amazon's central data infrastructure in Bahrain and also targeted U.S. defense systems and radar installations. ABC's Martha Raddatz is in Amman, Jordan.
Air raid sirens echoing here in Jordan. 6 missiles and 5 drones intercepted overnight. This after 3 U.S. service members were killed or presumed dead in that Iranian attack on a U.S. base in Jordan late last week.
A planned dignified transfer ceremony at Dover Air Force Base for today has been postponed. Kurt Volker is the former U.S. ambassador to NATO. He tells Fox forcing new Iranian leadership has to be the U.S. endgame.
I'd like to see a strategy for how we actually get a different regime in Iran. We can inflict pain on them. Unless there's a way that it brings about a change, the IRGC is going to hunker down and ride this out.
Lebanon's leader will meet with President Trump at the White House this afternoon. The Senate will hear from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, probably alongside Joint Chiefs Chair General Dan Kane, at a hearing before the Senate Appropriations Committee over President Trump's supplemental funding package to cover the costs of the war in Iran, as well as other emergencies. President Trump imposing additional 50% tariffs on some Canadian goods over alleged trade discrimination.
The White House says Trump signed 3 proclamations on Monday that target certain Canadian imports with the tariffs as a response to the trade discrimination. The White House says Trump is leveling the playing field for crucial American exports that include motor vehicles, alcohol, and dairy. The Canadian products being targeted range from wine to hockey sticks. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Giving a wide berth to Bertha, tropical storm Bertha.
Officials throughout the region are urging people to stay out of the water as the storm could produce high surf and dangerous rip currents.
ABC's Sophie Flay, while it won't reach hurricane strength, those rip currents and flooding rains pose a major threat all along the Gulf Coast. SpaceX is getting ready to test launch its massive Starship rocket on Thursday night from the pad in Starbase, Texas.
The mission was previously planned for July 16th, but scrubbed at the last minute because of an issue with several of the rocket's 33 Raptor engines. If the launch goes as planned, this will be the 13th test flight for Starship. The launch window opens at 6:45 p.m. Eastern. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
You're listening to the Noon Report on Family Life.
This is Mission Pulse. We spotlight ministries making a difference where you live, across the country, and around the world. This week, we sit down with the Potter's Hands Foundation in Corning, New York. With me, founder and executive director, Deb Keener. What is the Potter's Hands Foundation?
So the Potter's Hands Foundation is a faith-based nonprofit organization based in the southern tier of New York dedicated to helping women who have survived sex trafficking and sexual exploitation rebuild their lives. Our mission is to provide a safe, secure residential environment where they receive trauma-informed support, mental health counseling, physical, emotional, spiritual care, life skills training, educational support, career and employment assistance, and we just want to help them rebuild their lives so that they can have healthy relationships and success reintegrating into the community.
Tell me what would happen the first day, the first week or month that they're in your program.
When they first come to us, we ask them to commit to a year so that they have time to really begin their healing journey. And the first 30 days is kind of a blackout period where they're not allowed to really be in touch with anyone because we want to make sure the people they are reaching out to are safe for them to be in communication with. But it is obviously much more than a bed and a place to sleep. It's a long-term process that addresses their physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual needs. So in addition to the safe and secure housing, we do individualized case management, trauma-informed care, medical care, most of the time actually, mental health services, substance abuse recovery, life skills education. We talk a lot about having healthy boundaries in their relationships. We teach them about financial independence and obviously, spiritual care as well. And it's really important for them to have the opportunity to build community because it's something that they haven't had the opportunity for. Oftentimes we help with legal services. We provide daily structure. And then, when they finish our program, we work on transition planning and provide aftercare support.
Can you paint a picture of how difficult it is for these women? The average person that you have plucked out of sex trafficking, how did they get into it in the first place?
Sadly, the majority of them have been first abused by their own families. Many of them have been trafficked by their own families. And usually it starts with just unhealthy family systems, drug and alcohol abuse, families who are bringing drugs into the home and they become addicted and they don't have the money to pay for their own addiction, so they use their children, sadly.
And it's, pretty crazy. You look out the window and Corning, New York looks like a pretty normal place, and yet this is happening right outside the door. it's a very commonplace thing to have human trafficking happening in the southern tier.
Yeah, it happens everywhere. You know, when I'm speaking out in the community, I often ask how many of you have ever seen anything on the news about heroin or meth. If you have drugs in your community, you most certainly have sex trafficking in your community, because drug dealers know that they can make more money off of selling humans than they can the drugs. And they can sell you over and over and over again.
Do you have success getting these women out of the system, or do you find that many of them choose to go back into it?
You know, when we first started, we had less success, I will say, in getting them to where they want to be, but we actually have a very high success rate. One of the things that we've learned over the years is obviously not everyone who needs help is ready to receive it. So one of the things that we have done is developed a successful intake strategy to ensure the women that we accept into our program are truly ready to begin their healing journey. That starts with them filling out an application, us doing an initial interview, sending them our guidelines ahead of time so that they can review them and agree to the structure that we have set in place. And then we do a Zoom interview so that we can kind of see them face to face and they can see us. Because it's not just about us helping them, but it's about them feeling like we are the right program for them and that they are the right person for our program. So it's kind of a two-way street. And since we've really started being a little more diligent in our initial interview intake process, we've had a much higher success rate. Many years, it's 75 to 80% graduate rate.
What is Potter's Hands working on right now?
We are so excited because we are in the process of renovating a home for our new transition program. We actually have another Christian ministry, 8 Days of Hope, who are coming down to work with us in August to help us finish the home. And it's really designed to bridge the gap between our residential recovery and independent living. After they complete our residential program, they will have the opportunity to continue their healing journey in a supportive, structured environment so that they can continue to develop confidence in the skills they need for long-term success. We also are desperately in need of a couple of reliable vehicles because our van that we use now is on its last leg. And so we are in the beginning stages of looking for a reliable SUV and something else that we can use to help transport our transition program residents to work and other appointments.
Why do you do this? It is a lot to rescue women out of places that are this dark. Tell me a story that keeps you going.
I do this because of women like Emily, whose name has obviously been changed for the purpose of this interview. But Emily came to the Potter's Hands Foundation carrying the weight of years of trauma, addiction, and sexual exploitation. Like many of our survivors, she arrived feeling broken and uncertain that a different life was possible. But throughout her journey, she faced tremendous obstacles, including a battle with cancer that required extensive treatment. She actually completed our program and then shortly after graduating discovered that she had 2 types of cancer. And so we lost touch with her for a few months because she relapsed. And it was heartbreaking because she had done so well. We continued to try to reach out to her, and eventually she reconnected with us after a night where she overdosed and was brought back to life and reached out and said, I need to go to detox. So we took her to a detox place, and about a week later, she came back to our program where we walked her through her chemo and radiation treatments and all the different things that she had to do to stay alive, first of all, and then continue to work on the trauma from everything that she'd experienced previously in her life. And one of the cool things is that Emily had an opportunity to go on a missions trip to Ecuador with the local church, and it truly was life-changing for her. She is just an amazing human being. Watching her today and seeing how strong she is, you can literally see the joy exude from her, and she just loves Jesus so much. It's really a beautiful, incredible thing to witness, and that's why we do what we do, because her journey is a testament to the mission of the Potter's Hands Foundation. Providing women who've experienced sexual exploitation with the time, support, and resources they need to move from surviving to thriving is why we do what we do.
Potter's Hands Foundation founder and executive director Deb Keener, thank you so much for your time and for your work. It's dark, it's hard, and you show up every single day, and it really is an honor to spotlight what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Learn more at thepottershandsfoundation.org.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Don't forget, you can check out every one of our Family Life original news features online anytime at Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and, of course, familylife.org. Finally at noon, for all of the amazing high-tech gear and highly trained caring staff in a modern neonatal ICU, it's the human touch that often makes the difference. And that's where 73-year-old Dave Whitlow comes in. He's a volunteer cuddler. Twice a week, the 73-year-old father of 2, grandfather of 3, walks in and gloves up, then just sits down and cuddles the NICU's young patients, telling WTVR.
Typical day, I'll probably hold 5 or 6 children. How are you doing today? I watch the monitors first to see whether positionally there's anything to do to improve, but he looks pretty good. His SATs are at 100%. That's what we're looking for.
He says, and the staff agrees, that the human interaction is important in nursing the NICU's tender patients to health.
Best gig I've ever had. The support and spiritual needs of the family and the staff. And so it all kind of gets tied together here.
As he places each baby back in their bed, he whispers the same thing each time: grow strong, grow smart, grow kind. And that's the world we live in for Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. As always, we thank you for listening. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.